A warning to our audience. If you've never heard of Matt Stone or Trey Parker, they go out of their way to offend the audience. This film contains jokes about race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, body shaming, and more I'm sure I'm forgetting to mention. This film is heavy with sexual innuendo and pornographic references, so listener discretion is highly advised. This is I Pierce the Toast. I'm Sean.
And I'm AJ. Let's make some toast.
Welcome back to I Pierce the Toast. That's right, you son of a bitch.
Oh, so now you know how to say your own shtick.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we're back to the original
Okay,
shtick.
so hold on, let me rewind. So why do you keep calling it I Pierce the Toast? Sean, it's called IPTT.
Oh, well, you see, reason that's...
I don't fucking care. It's IPTT, okay?
So, AJ, some exciting things are happening in film. It's the summer. It's time for the summer blockbusters.
Yeah,
What films are you excited about that are coming out soon?
Well, I just saw Spider-Verse, like the new one, and it was real good.
Like, you watched the actual film?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Transformers, I loved seeing, like, the whatchamahoosums.
The Beasts.
Yeah, Beast Wars was one of my favorite shows when I was a kid. So,
Nice.
like, seeing, like, Optimus Prime, I was like, oh, yes.
So, this Friday, we've got Flash coming out. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about Flash? You think it's going to do well? I think we're going to get a good showing on this one.
I think it's going to do very well, but not because of Ezra Miller, like we've discussed before. I think it's really just people want to see Michael Keaton as Batman again.
Yeah, same.
But also, I feel a little bamboozled because I thought that Ben Affleck was not going to be Batman in any way, shape, or form. But at least in some of the previews, he does show up as Batman.
I was about to say, my understanding was it's Ezra Miller in the universe that we know him to be in, which is the universe where Ben Affleck is Batman.
Yeah.
And then he gets, in his attempts to go back in time, he winds up in a universe where Michael Keaton is the Batman. So that was the impression I was under.
Well, I mean, just in previous interviews, I thought Ben Affleck was done. That's why I was like, wait, what?
I think it's that he's, if I understood it correctly, I don't know if this is going to be the last film he does Batman in.
Yeah.
He's not going to do any more films where he's a solo Batman, or that's going to be more focused on him as Batman, but he'll still do things where the focus is either another hero or the Justice League, at least as long as they can keep, squeezing some money out of the franchise.
Either way, I mean, I'm super stoked. I mean, Blue Beetle is going to be coming out too. Like, that's fucking awesome.
Okay, so one more I have for you. June 30th.
Yes.
The release of, hopefully, the final. Hopefully, we thought the last one was the final, with the fucking crystal skulls. But hopefully the final, Indiana Jones. AJ, how are we feeling about Indiana Jones? Yeah, same. Yeah, like I'm hopeful. I want this to undo the absolute disaster that was the Crystal Skulls. Because if we had left Indiana Jones at the Holy Grail, what was it?
Sean Connery.
What the hell was the name of it? Indiana Jones, not Temple of Doom, not Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Last Crusade.
Last Crusade, thank you.
Yeah.
If we had left it at the Last Crusade, the final film in the original, series, it would have been fine. It was a classic. It did great. And then we did this Crystal Skulls, and it was just garbage.
Well, I'm wondering how they're going to do this because they just brought in aliens. What else is going to blow our minds?
Well, if I'm reading the previews right, I think there's going to be some religious undertones to this, which is not a problem for me because there's always been religious undertones to the Indiana Jones franchise. The Cup of Christ, for God's sakes. I mean, literally, it was
the first and the last one for sure.
Right. It literally harkens to religious, specifically
Christianity
Christian.
In this new one.
I don't know, but there's a part where he's talking about in the preview that I just watched, belief and things that are beyond his understanding. So to me, that invokes like images of religion and mythology to me.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's the direction we're going. And there's a scene where like the sky is kind of opened in this weird way where there's light peering through and there's something going towards it. So I think we're going back to, we're getting away from the alien nonsense, which I think was kind of silly in the first place. And we're getting back to Indiana Jones and his, you know, his struggle almost to seek understanding of religion while also being, you know, a archaeologist slash anthropologist.
Well, I mean, there was also religious undertones in the second one as well. I mean, I forgot what the religion was. It was
sure,
yeah,
because it was an Indian religion.
Yeah,
because it was Shiva versus whoever the guy was going, whoever they were worshiping.
Shiva. I thought it was Kali.
Thank you. Kali was the evil one. And Shiva was I think was supposed to kind of represent the true god. Because I just remember Indy going, "You betrayed Shiva."
It's been a minute since I've seen it. We're probably butchering what's going on in this movie.
I have no doubt. But
but I mean, it seems like at least the first three were all religion based, and then they're like, "Hey, let's get Harrison Ford to do some wacky-do alien stuff." You know, he was
wacky-do. I love that you said wacky-do because that is a great segue into today's show. Interestingly enough. So AJ,
what are we doing today, Sean?
I'm bringing us back to 1997 today.
Ooh, a good year.
It's a heartwarming tale of a young missionary who sets out on a journey to seek a better life for him and his fiancée, and winds up having some misadventures. I'm of course talking about the 1997 Matt Stone, Trey Parker flop that is Orgazmo.
I love Orgazmo, though. Like, I had to sit down and rewatch this movie. As soon as you said, okay, we're doing Orgazmo, I was like, I can't just sit here and pull this from my memory. This has to be fresh.
I agree. I agree. Which is weird because as far as Rotten Tomatoes go, there's nothing fresh about this. It was weird because, you know, we've talked about, you know, The Wizard or a couple of the other films we've done that had these cult followings, even though they may not have been super critically acclaimed in their time. They definitely have an audience that still harkens back to it. This one doesn't seem to have that. As a matter of fact, I had a hard time finding information on not just the film itself, but the actors in the film. Obviously, Matt Stone, Trey Parker. We all know who they are.
Yeah,
we're gonna,
South Park guys.
Right, we're going to go into them. But the rest of the people in this film, there is one other person that seems to have had some success in film. And everyone else is either a porn star, a friend of Matt and Trey, or they did this one film and that was kind of it, and they've completely fallen off the radar, or they're doing something completely different, who we'll talk about with the character of A-Cup.
Okay. But
let's dive in here. So, dropping the veil here, this film is about it's a superhero story. About a superhero origin story, I should say. We love our origin stories.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
This is a superhero origin story about a man who is a Mormon missionary that is serving his mission in Los Angeles and inadvertently winds up in pornography in order to earn money so he can marry his fiancée, while also somehow in the porn film that he's acting in, he's taking on this persona of a superhero named Orgazmo, but then as the film continues, he actually becomes Orgazmo.
Which is hilarious to me.
It's crazy because Matt Stone and Trey Parker are really good at storytelling.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's weird because this is not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's crass, it's easy butt jokes, it's not a quality film. But the storytelling is solid. Like they get the story across. It does well. It's not like they go off all these tangents that are just make it impossible to follow a storyline.
No, there's definitely a really good arc to this.
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's kind of crazy too, and I think I might have heard this, and it's probably false. But is it true? You might have seen this in your research that Orgazmo, like the Mormon aspect of Orgazmo and everything like that, kind of spurred them later on to make the Book of Mormon, or is that just like...
I have to assume so. That's just a common... Mormonism has been a common subject of ridicule for Matt and Trey.
Yeah.
So let's dive in and let's talk about Matt and Trey first of all. So the film is directed by Trey Parker, and it was written by Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Most people are going to know them from South Park, but they've done things like Basketball, Team America, a puppet film from I think it was the early 2000s, right after 9/11. And then, of course, probably their most famous recent work would be their hit Broadway show, The Book of Mormon,
which is so good.
So right off the bat, they made fun of Mormonism in the Book of Mormon. They've ridiculed Mormonism in several South Park episodes, and then of course we have this where they're making fun of Mormonism. It's just a common thing for them. And I don't know if they really go into it much. I think it's that they find Mormons the whole idea of Mormonism kind of fascinating.
Is it because they're an easy target, and because when it comes down to it, there might be some Scientologist viewers out there, and this is in no way, shape, or form a slight against you. But in the past, people that have come for the Church of Scientology seem to have the book thrown at them legality-wise. So do you think maybe they're picking on the Mormons because traditionally the Mormon Church isn't really going to throw the book at them?
Maybe.
But the book.
But they also... the Book of Mormon. Maybe, but even in South Park, Matt and Trey did an episode where Tom Cruise is, quote unquote, stuck in the closet, and it was kind of making fun of Tom Cruise, kind of insinuating, the Hollywood rumors of Tom Cruise's sexuality. But that episode was also making fun of Scientology.
Yeah.
So they haven't shied away from Scientology either.
They only really did it in the one episode, though, because they got a lot of flack for that. The Church of Scientology came after them. Isaac Hayes left the show.
I was about to say, they lost
that.
Isaac Hayes because of that, which was kind of, that's kind of crazy. I even remember the next episode where they had to use old voice clips of Isaac Hayes to kill off the character. Yeah. It was so awkward.
It was wait, I've heard this one.
Right.
Hi, children.
Hello, children. So, Matt and Trey have been attached at the hip since college when they first started making films. And I think their first one was Cannibal, the musical. That may be correct. I'm not sure. But you can't say one without the other. I don't even know if they have any independent projects, but they're always working together. Producers on this film, we've got Matt and Trey themselves, and then we've got John Frank Rosenblum, who mostly did some lesser-known TV projects, and then Fran Rubel Kazooie, who was actually the producer for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the film, and then later the show and the spinoff Angel.
Really?
Yeah, so I was actually surprised to hear him attached to this, but, and maybe, the superhero thing kind of caught his eye. I'm not really sure. Interestingly enough, about 50% of the budget for this film came from a Japanese porn production company called Kooky Inc. And apparently they were aiming to showcase some of their stars to a Western audience. I don't know who they were referring to because, we put the warning at the beginning of the podcast.
We did.
And we're going to jump right in with this. There's two actors in the film referred to as the Ass Fuck Twins. And I figured maybe that's who they're referring to because they were the only Japanese stars that appeared in the film that I know of.
Wasn't the guy that owned the sushi restaurant, wasn't he Japanese?
Right, but he wasn't a porn actor, was he? Because I think he was with them in Cannibal.
That's true.
So, if this company that was, doing 50% of the budget, Kooky Inc., was doing it to showcase their porn stars, I figured the Ass Fuck Twins had to be it, but I couldn't... Okay, so I tried to Google it. I'm going to say right now, if you try to Google Ass Fuck Twins, you're not going to find what you think you're looking for. I mostly got links to X videos and Pornhub. So anyway, RIP to my search history.
Incognito mode.
I also want to note the budget for this film, and you're not going to fucking believe this. What do you think the budget was for this film?
With all the porn stars that they had to put in this, I mean, they got Ron Jeremy, for Christ's sakes.
That is true.
For Christ. Hold on, no.
Ew.
I guess, yeah. For Jesus' sake. Yeah, because Jesus loves you.
That's true. Jesus and I love you, AJ.
Jesus and I love you. So we'll talk about that later. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to have to put it at... $2 million? I don't know.
You're a little high, actually. I figured you would have put it like $500K because we're not talking a lot of production quality in this film.
No, I mean, I was thinking of the stars, the amount of stars you had to get in this.
Yeah. So 1.3 million.
Okay.
The film made a whopping $600K.
That's not good.
No, it's not. But I think it more had to do with the rating. So this film is actually rated NC-17. And from everything I read, that is a box office death sentence.
I would imagine so, because people were probably thinking, I'm not going to the movie theater to go see porn.
Right. Or really just like, because there's a few films, like there's you remember the movie Crash, where they show a lot of different perspectives?
Yeah.
There was another film called Crash that was actually about people that were obsessed with car crashes.
I've seen this movie.
Weird movie, right?
Where they do some,
yeah, like they're kind of sexually aroused by car crashes.
Yeah.
That was an NC-17 film when
Was
it
it
was released.
really?
It was. I remember, because I remember going to a dad, and dad kind of had to weigh the whole NC-17 thing. But
he had to waive it.
Like.
Oh, I thought you said wave it. I was
Sean
like,
be watching this, but I think I was probably like 17 at the time. So who cares?
Okay.
But if it's a rated R film, you might be able to go, yeah, my kid's probably old enough to watch this, whatever. But NC-17, like you said, porn or no porn, you're probably not going to let your younger kids watch that. And parents that can't take their kids to the show, they're not going to go see that movie in the theater. So yeah, this film was a flop.
I mean, I could imagine that it did flop very, very hard. I mean, when you think about it, if I've asked a lot of people, have you seen Orgazmo? A lot of people have not. But they have heard the song from Orgazmo. I mean, pretty much everyone knows the fucking song.
It is a good song.
Yeah. Which I think is crazy to me that Trey Parker, and I knew this after I saw like the Book of Mormon and I watched South Park and everything like that. Did you know he attended the Berklee College School of Music?
I didn't.
Yeah, he didn't graduate, but he did attend. So, I mean, when you think about he is pretty much a musical genius because he does, I think, almost all the songs in South Park. Primus, I don't think he does any of their songs, but like the big name songs that he does, he sings them, he produces them, he writes them. So it kind of shows in that song for this movie because I think he wrote and did this one too.
I'm not sure because, like, if you look up the song, I think it was because obviously the song we're talking about is called "Now You're a Man."
Yeah,
and I think it shows as being by a band called the Hot Beef Injection.
Isn't that their band?
I have no idea. I actually didn't research the song. I probably should have put more into that, but I was just like, yeah, it's that song. Who cares, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Hot Beef Injection is their stuff. Hold on, let me look it up real quick.
Well, while you're looking that up, I'm going to go into the cast because this is a completely non-star-studded cast, and I'm loving that. I'm loving that we're going to recognize 2 names, possibly 3 from this, and that's it. What do you got?
It is not by the Hot Beef Injection. It is by DVDA. And as you already put the...
Oh, God, DVDA. I know exactly what that means.
Yeah, you already put the title on the front of this. So who do you think that did? Who do you think what that means?
I believe that means double vaginal, double anal.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I just realized that I have heard that before, and I'm like, why do I know that? What would Brian Boitano do? That song?
The one from South Park.
That's DVDA, who is just Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
Oh, interesting. So they did write this song.
Yeah, they did this.
Okay, good to know. All right,
That's crazy.
I'm glad you found that. So, speaking of Matt Stone and Trey Parker, in this film, Trey, who, I don't know, in terms of this pairing, the Matt Stone, Trey Parker, we always throw them together, but if you ever watch like the 5 Days to South Park, Trey really seems to be the one that's the kind of the brains of the operation.
Mm-hmm.
Matt definitely brings a huge comedic resource to things, and he's definitely a good, and I hate to put it this way, he's kind of a good sidekick.
He really is, though.
But he doesn't play a sidekick in this film, but, Trey's our guy. Well, he plays Joe, and I'm going to say /Orgazmo, but also not /Orgazmo, and we're going to get into that when we talk about the plot. Matt Stone actually plays a very secondary character in this film. He plays the Dave the lighting guy.
Love this guy.
And I'm not going to talk too much about him. All I'm going to say is throughout the film, he's kind of struggling with his sexuality in a very interesting way, but he's using very problematic language that, in the 90s would have maybe been at least somewhat acceptable to say. But in 2023, the way he's saying it is kind of homophobic.
It's kind of funny to me, and I always have to figure out who's who when it comes to their duo and who does more of the work. So I'm like, I always mix their names up. So Trey Parker does Cartman and he does Stan. But then Matt Stone does Kenny and then he does Kyle. So it's like you can figure out who they are.
So the other name in this that I think might actually resonate with a few people is, and I don't know if I'm actually pronouncing this right. I probably should look at the pronunciation, but I believe it's Dian Bachar. He plays Ben, or Chota Boy, which I love. I love that. He's the sidekick to Orgazmo. He appeared in Basketball. He was a Thermian in Galaxy Quest. He played Roger in Two Girls, a Guy, and a Pizza Place. And actually, he was most recently in Nightmare Alley with Bradley Cooper.
Really?
He plays Fifi the Bird Girl, which I thought was interesting.
I've never seen it, so...
It's a messed up film. The premise is basically Bradley Cooper's kind of a... he's kind of a... what's the word? Swindler.
Oh.
And he joins a circus. He learns more about his swindling. He takes it, on his own. And then he tries to go for a big score, which winds up really problematic for him and putting him back in the role he was always supposed to play. And I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but it's a messed up film. It's definitely worth a watch.
So I do want to say that, again, I'm not going to watch Galaxy Quest, but
Watch Galaxy Quest.
I didn't even know he was in there.
Well, yeah, he's a very bit role. He plays a Thermian. So remember the Thermians were...
Yeah.
Or you haven't seen it, I guess.
I mean, I've seen it. I just didn't like it.
So the aliens, the Thermians. He plays one of the Thermians, and I think he's described as the nervous tech.
Oh, okay.
But, you have to be looking real close to see him. I mean, hell, even what's his name? Dwight from The Office. Rainn Wilson.
Yeah, Rainn Wilson. Do you know he's actually got a podcast, too?
That doesn't surprise me.
Well, and it's very odd. He doesn't do like what we do. He plays a character.
Oh, interesting.
We'll talk about
Wait,
this.
You're not playing a character right now?
I'm just me.
You are.
I wish I was playing a character.
And Jesus and I love you.
Jesus and I love you too.
We're going to get to that. Rainn Wilson was actually in Galaxy Quest 2 as a Thermian, is what I was getting at.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like, and he's easy to miss. It's so easy to miss who all the Thermians are because they're all made to purposely look alike. So it's yeah.
And the Thermians, they go like, "You are our last hope."
That's the one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The ones that talk all weird and apparently are actually like these weird, like, squid monster beings, but are using a generator to make them look more human-like. Yeah, but this is not about Galaxy Quest. This is about Orgazmo, AJ. All right? And next we got to talk about Robin Lynn Robb.
Who?
Because the actor that played Lisa, I could not find a damn thing about this person. They were in this and an episode of the Nickelodeon television show Hey Dude, and that is it.
Yeah, that old chestnut.
The only other thing I could find out about her was that she studied at the British American Drama Academy in London. And outside of that, there is nothing. Nothing on Instagram, nothing on Facebook. She has no YouTube presence. Like, there's nothing. I couldn't find a damn thing about her.
She's got a very, like, I think I know that girl kind of face. When me and my girlfriend were watching it, it was one of those things where it was like, she kind of looks like Scarlett Johansson a little bit in the face a little bit, but like a mix between Scarlett Johansson and like every classic 90s white woman. So
right, she's definitely got like ScarJo has a very unique sexiness to her, whereas Robin Lynn had much more of the girl next door look.
Yeah. So
yeah, but nothing. Like this was it. She did this film and then I guess her days of acting were over. And I don't know. I might even try to find more information about her if I can, but I did a pretty extensive search and just she doesn't show up. So I wonder if maybe this was a stage name and she went back to her original name.
Probably.
I'm not sure. Next, we have Michael Dean Jacobs, who plays our villain, Max Orbison.
Ooh.
A lot of one-spot TV appearances and B-flicks, like he was in a movie called Bloodsport, The Dark Kumite. Like that's
know
it.
Bloodsport. Bloodsport's the one with the JCVD?
Yeah, the original. This was like one of the 14 films that followed.
I didn't know that there was more.
Oh god, yeah, no. It had it was a martial arts film with moderate success. You think they didn't freaking try to capitalize on that? Come on.
Yeah.
Then we have David Dunn, who plays A-Cup, kind of one of the lower henchmen.
Yeah.
Basically, he had only this film and a film called No Rules with Randy Couture of MMA fame. So based off that, I was kind of like, okay, I know sometimes people that are in martial arts will kind of find themselves doing films like this, right? Mostly just because they're hired for their martial arts prowess. Even though From an acting perspective, I didn't think he wasn't an actor. I was like, okay, he did an okay job. The performance didn't blow me away, but it didn't make me think like some of the porn stars in this of like, yeah, that's clearly somebody that doesn't act a lot. But I did find out that he now, I think, owns like a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu studio. So that's kind of what he's doing with his life. He's training martial arts.
Okay.
So pretty cool. Aside from that, I'm not going to go into the entire cast because everybody else is either a porn star, such as we've got Ron Jeremy, Chasey Lane, Shayla Laveau, and Julie Ashton.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're friends of like Trey and Matt from their previous work, like Cannibal the Musical. But that's it. That's mostly who our supporting cast is.
There was the one girl, I forget the name of her. She plays the porn star with the fake boobs.
Yeah, she was in Cannibal the Musical.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Toddy Walters.
Toddy Walters.
So Toddy Walters just
everybody attached to this film was just either a friend of Matt and Trey's with very few other credits, if any at all, or a porn star. That was it.
Well, Toddy Walters actually does a lot of like behind the scenes stuff. She's not an actor anymore, but she does do behind the scenes like production and stuff.
Well, that's what I mean. Performance wise,
yeah.
Most everybody attached to this film, they either didn't do a lot. If they did do anything else, it was with Matt and Trey. Or I've mentioned them before, like with Dean, he obviously has done, Nightmare Alley and has some actual credits to his name that are outside of kind of the Matt and Trey universe.
Or they are porn stars, like you said. They do a lot.
They do a lot of extracurricular filming.
DVDA.
Speaking of that, do you remember in this film the character of T-Rex?
You can't forget T-Rex. So
T-Rex was within the auspice of the film as a plus size porn actress. Her IMDb, and I shit you not, it has her say that her name is possibly Ruby Hart, but her actual title card name on IMDb, the Fat Stripper, or the Fat Lady Stripper.
What?
Swear to God, that's her name. If you go to IMDb right now and you look up Orgazmo and then you look for T-Rex, where the name of the actor should be, it says the Fat Lady Stripper.
No fucking way. Why did they do that to her?
I don't know. And if you try to, the problem is the name Ruby Hart, that is, like, if you go to her page, it says that her name is the Fat Lady Stripper, as if it's a title, like the Fat Lady Stripper. And then you try to look more information up. It says that her name, she may also go by Ruby Hart, but that's such a common name that, like, all I could do is try to search it with Orgazmo or with Matt and Trey, but nothing really comes up other than just she was in this film.
That's definitely not her name, but okay.
No, that obviously not her name, but yeah. Interestingly, Matt and Trey originally wanted the role to be played by a plus-size stripper named Eartha Quake. Fucking love that. But had to find someone else when they found out that Eartha Quake had actually lost a lot of the weight. So she didn't look that way anymore. And her name was actually going to be Eartha Quake in the film to, just go along with her exotic dancer persona. Mm-hmm. But they just came up with T-Rex or Tina Rex the day of filming when they had to replace her with, quote unquote, the Fat Lady Stripper.
Okay.
Not near as interesting as all that, but I'm sure you can surmise that T-Rex's voice in the film is pretty obviously dubbed by Trey.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty friggin' obvious.
When we were watching the movie, my girlfriend was like, "Oh, that's a South Park voice." I was like, "Yeah, that's Trey Parker."
I was gonna say, when I heard it, to me it sounded like a combination of Cartman, excuse me, Satan, and one of the Canadians from South Park.
I thought it sounded like Randy.
Randy the dad?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think it sounded like Randy at all. Because he's like, "Hey guys, I'm ready to fuck."
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, but yeah, it's very obvious, very obvious, like South Park-esque voice. But I'm actually going to talk about who I think Sam Elliott would play now, as opposed to before we get into the film.
Okay.
And the only reason is because I don't actually mention the person that he would play in this film at all in my notes, because there's so much to cover here, and I really wanted to just stick to the storyline. And because it's Matt Stone and Trey Parker, there's a lot of little joke tangents that go off that if we followed every single one of them, we'd literally be doing a 7-hour podcast. So instead of doing that, I stuck to the main line. But I think it's pretty obvious who, in my opinion, Sam Elliott would play.
Okay. We have differing opinions.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
All right. He's definitely Sancho.
I am Sancho.
I am Sancho. There is a character that literally just says things like, I am Sancho. And the guy's like, okay, but what do you do? Like he's auditioning to be a porn actor for Roy or for Max Orbison, excuse me. We're going to get into the Roy thing here in a minute. And he's like, okay, so why would you be a good porn? He goes, I am Sancho. He's like, okay, but what do you do? He's like, I am Sancho. He's like, what does that mean? He's like, there are many Matts and Toms as well, but I am Sancho. And somehow he eventually convinces Max Orbison. He's like, because you are Sancho. And he's like, all right, you're hired. And he's like, of course. That's Sam Elliott energy to the fucking max for me.
I can see that.
That's totally like him just sitting there like, well, I'm Sancho. I'm Sancho. Well, there's many Matts and Daves, but I'm Sancho. Like, I mean, I can just hear him doing it like he's in Parks and Rec again.
No, I think he'd be Neutered Man.
Wait, which
the original man? Neutered Man.
So A-Cup.
Yeah, A-Cup.
You think he played A-Cup?
Yeah.
Really? A-Cup is such an asshole.
I mean, if you're gonna have some antagonist with some type of swag, Sam Elliott.
Okay, I see what you're saying. You're saying because of A-Cup's kind of machismo,
quote unquote.
That's quote unquote. That's where Sam Elliott would shine. Yeah. Okay, all right, I can buy that for $1. I'm still putting him as Sancho in my movie.
I got you $1.
So let's jump into this.
Okay.
We open with scenes from the Orgazmo comic book and the greatest song ever to be bestowed on humanity by God.
Now you're a man, now you're a man, man. You are now a man, you're a man. Now you're a man.
Fucking love that song. Interesting fact. That comic book, Orgazmo, does not exist. It's not a thing.
That's probably where all their money went.
Making those little comic scenes in the beginning of the film. Apparently, it's just reproductions of classic moments from comic books with from heroes like Superman, Spider-Man, and Captain America.
But with Orgazmo.
And just replaced Orgazmo,
okay.
Yeah. I was so disappointed because I was like, ooh, wouldn't it be fun to get a copy of the Orgazmo comic book for us, kind of a little memento of this podcast. No, there's no fucking such thing.
That's kind of disappointing, but
Super
I mean,
disappointing.
It's so dead on for Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
That's a good point. Them just creating shit out of thin air, and all of us just have to accept that it's not real. Yeah, totally. So, based on that, I wondered where the film came from. So in a 1997 interview, Trey describes the entire film as a metaphor for kind of the fish out of water that him and other filmmakers feel coming to LA and dealing with the big studios. And I thought that was interesting because he goes a little bit further into it, talking about how, people, when he said he was going to do a film that was going to involve the porn industry, people warned him like, oh, those people are all, miscreants and deviants, and you're going to have to, dealing with a lot of problems with them. And what Trey says he found is that dealing with the porn stars they were perfectly pleasant. They were chill. They were a lot of fun. They were easy to work with. He says that all those things they said about the porn industry individuals were actually more true about the big Hollywood studios.
Really?
That they were the ones that made life impossible and problematic and stifled creativity.
That's super interesting, actually.
I thought so too. So jumping in. The scene is Hollywood. 2 Mormon missionaries stroll gleefully from door to door to spread the word of Heavenly Father.
Oh, this is an innocent tale.
They encounter a lovely elderly woman with some choice words for their religion.
Well, you 2 boys can just fuck right off.
Ma'am?
You heard me. Take that Book of Mormon and shove it so far up your righteous asses that you choke. You soul-soliciting pig fuckers.
I love that so much.
Yeah, they really just dive us right into what kind of movie this is going to be right from the beginning.
And she's so happy about it, too.
She is. Oh, my God. Joe, our hero, notes that he wants to marry his fiancée Lisa in the temple, but doesn't quite have the money to do so. So we cut to a porn set. That's the way this movie works. We got two Mormons walking down the street whistling, cut to porn. That's right. Mormon to porn. Here we encounter the embattled and legendary Ron Jeremy. And I say embattled because obviously recently I think he was finally sentenced to jail time for sexual assaults.
I think so too.
So, obviously we're not, going to talk too much about Ron Jeremy. He's kind of a bit role. He's kind of a henchman in this film, but he does appear here. And in the 1990s, he was somewhat of a big name. He was still had some mainstream popularity even outside of porn. People knew who he was. He was probably a more famous character, mostly because he was a unique looking individual. Most people in porn were, very buff and very skinny, or most men anyway. Whereas Ron Jeremy had the nickname the Hedgehog because he was a short little hairy dude, but he had a very large endowment. So Ron Jeremy is on set of a porn film that's being filmed inside this house, and he's playing a character called Jizzmaster Zero alongside this very pathetic excuse for a superhero named Orgazmo, who tries to call it quits after encountering a broken pinky finger. Max Orbison, the director within this film production, desperately needs a true hero with fighting abilities, even for this porn role. Interesting fact. Ron Jeremy was actually originally cast as Max Orbison.
I could see that.
Yeah, right? Didn't that always seemed like that's the way maybe
too.
it should have been, but apparently they switched him to Clark, and they wanted a better actor for the movie's main villain. Which is interesting because the guy who played Max Orbison, like I said, he's had some bit roles, but nothing major. So
I mean, Ron Jeremy, if you've seen like the Boondock Saints or anything like that, he can't really act anyway.
No, he can't. Oh my god, I totally forgot he was in Boondock Saints.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's such a great callback. Oh, we need to do that movie. Our two worlds collide when our Mormon missionaries knock on the wrong door. The door of porn king Max Orbison.
Boss? Some guys from Jesus?
One thing I definitely do want to say before you continue on, and I don't know why you're eliminating certain key features. Yeah, you said, okay, we're immediately thrown onto a porn set. Can we talk about the fact that there are so many asses, hairy asses at that, in this fucking film?
It's funny you mentioned that. And I wasn't going to touch on it because it's kind of been said to death, but I read probably 6 or 7 in-depth reviews of this film from the 1990s. Every single one was just blasting the film, talking about how terrible it was. And one of the things they constantly harkened back to was the asses. Because they were like, oh yeah, there's lots of men asses. Like, I think the scene you're probably talking about in the beginning here is one of the female porn actors is taking off her bra and is about to expose her breasts, and then a dude steps right in front of that with his bare ass, and we're all just given a full helping of ass.
I'm talking about all the asses. There's so many, and they're all hairy,
and they keep doing that, right? And what a lot of these reviewers pointed out is that there's no real comedic value to it. It's literally just, here's a man ass, as if that in itself is funny, and it really isn't.
Funny.
It does.
It's funny, but there's a lot of it.
When I was in high school when this came out, yeah, it was hilarious. But it's like when you look at it in a 2023 perspective, it's like, yeah, there's really nothing funny about this. They're literally just like, here's a dude's butt. Okay, it kind of makes me think of what is the dystopian movie where Idiocracy?
Yeah,
where there's a movie where it's literally just a man's ass.
See, I wouldn't care if it was a man's ass. I don't care about that at all. The amount of hair that is on these asses is just entirely unnecessary and untoured, okay?
I feel personally attacked for reasons that we don't need to go into.
Yeah, you freaking ocelot.
Ocelot. Max is not happy with the intrusion and sends his guards outside to take care of our Mormon friends. But little did he know, Joe is a master of martial arts.
Ooh.
In being able to handle all the guards that Max Orbison throws at him, Max and Joe then find themselves in a situation to help each other. There's just the little issue of porn being a teeny tiny bit against the Mormon religion.
Just a little bit.
But fear not, there's a simple solution.
Stunt cock!
Within the auspice of the film, a stunt cock is apparently, according to Orbison, a very common thing they do, where when there's actual penetration in the pornographic film, they bring in another actor so that the original actor isn't actually doing any of that part of the role. So Joe, hearing this, he's still on the fence. He's not sure, but it's intriguing to him, and he's obviously very conflicted because he's a Mormon, but Orbison's offering him $20,000 to play this role.
Is it like 3 days worth of work? And he's like, or is it 2 days?
No, so 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days. For
yeah,
$20,000
for $20,000.
And you don't even have to fuck.
And I should mention to anybody that either doesn't remember the 90s or wasn't alive then, $20,000 was about $37,000 in today's money.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge amount, but for 3 days of work and a person, imagine, obviously this is supposed to be a Mormon who's on his mission. And he does allude that he went to college. So I think we can reasonably assume he's probably supposed to be 22 or 23 years old. So a 23-year-old getting to start out his life right after his mission with $37,000, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. His whole wedding's paid for at that point.
Pretty close. Now, back at his apartment, Joe tells his fiancée Lisa on the phone of the day's ongoings. He doesn't go into detail, obviously. He doesn't tell her that it's about porn, but he lets her know the amount of money that he could possibly be making and fudges the details on what the film is going to be. I think he says it's Death of the Salesman.
Yeah, Death of the Salesman. And she's like, oh, you're going to play Biff?
Right. To which she offers her very enthusiastic approval.
Jesus and I love you, Joe.
So that's where that comes from. That's why AJ and I have been saying that line over and over, because it's a funny trope that they keep doing throughout the film of, the two characters of Lisa and Joe constantly saying back and forth to each other, Jesus and I love you. Day one on the porn set. Joe meets his sidekick and co-star, Ben Chapleski, a.k.a. Chota Boy.
Fuck yeah.
He's a former MIT PhD with a Casanovian sex drive. Chota Boy explains to Joe that Orgazmo is a superhero that fights crime with his Orgasmerator, a device with the power to initiate an orgasm with the pull of a trigger.
Which, to me, sounds... And I thought about this entire time I was watching the movie. I was like, who the fuck thought of that? That's the dumbest device I've ever heard of in my life, even on a porn set.
I mean... if you're going to create a porn star-esque superhero, him being able to give people orgasms, I mean, that would seem kind of to be the ultimate superpower of a porn star, right?
I guess it'd be the ultimate good. That's like the Superman aspect. You're kind of OP at that point.
Maybe.
I get you. I smell what you're stepping in, and it smells sticky.
Given the topic of this podcast, that was graphic. Proud of you. Fun fact, in India, the word chota is colloquial for fuck in many languages, including Hindi.
Ooh.
The sidekick is called Chota Boy, which would be fucker in Hindi, and completely in line with the Orgazmo theme.
I like it.
I know. I love that.
Slap it on a...
I thought that was fun. I don't even know if it's fucking true, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to find out if this is true or not, because I love that fact so much, I'm just going to pretend it's true no matter what.
Slap it on a postage stamp. I'm here for it.
Are you just going to be Captain Catchphrase today?
I think so, yeah.
I'm fucking here for it. I'm fucking loving this. During this initial introduction, we're introduced to a reluctance from Joe that will permeate through the film, and an inability to fully embrace the persona of Orgazmo, which will typically manifest as him noting, I'm not Orgazmo. People will constantly be like, oh, so you're the guy you're going to be playing Orgazmo. He's like, I'm not Orgazmo.
He freaks out about it.
Yeah, he consistently tells people he's not Orgazmo. But as he steps out in the Orgazmo suit for the first time, it's clear it's the role he was born to play.
You look good, man. Let's make some porno.
Again with the ass slapping, though, or just man ass in general in this whole movie. There's an inordinate amount of just men that just keep slapping their own asses. I don't know why. Did you ever come across this in your research on why they just keep slapping their own asses?
Honestly, I think Matt and Trey just find butts funny. I think that's it.
I mean, butts are funny.
They are. I mean, think about the like South Park episodes where the Canadians are just farting on each other. I think they just find all things butt related funny, and they thought if we're doing live action, there should be as much butt stuff as possible.
Okay, I'm here for it.
Isn't there what is the General Butt Fucking Naked? Isn't that the name of the guy from Book of Mormon?
Yeah, that is his name.
Yeah, so they just love butts. I think they've got a thing with butts.
Them and Sir Mix-a-Lot would they go really well with each other. Yeah.
Things on set go as well as you would expect. Our young Mormon hero has no problem handling the fighting and the acting, but the overt sexuality of it all definitely makes this a rocky experience. Nevertheless, our hero perseveres and is successful in bringing the character of Orgazmo to the screen.
Lights are on and stable, Captain. Woohoo! Let's see some fucking action!
Fucking love that guy.
Dave is so
Dave
great.
is like, he's not my favorite character. He's one of my favorite characters in this whole movie.
Like, aside from some of the overt homophobia that Dave portrays in this film, he is a lovable fucking character because you find out that he's basically gay in the end.
Yeah. It's like he's just questioning himself the entire time. Then he's just like, okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
Like, I think because obviously, and I'll kind of bring everybody in on the joke that he constantly says, I don't want to sound queer or nothing. And, it's kind of insulting because it's like, okay, that's, in today's auspice, that seems like such a weird thing to say. But he constantly says, I don't want to sound queer or nothing. And he'll say something like, I think unicorns are kick-ass, or you've got a really nice ass. And then at one point he just drops all pretenses, and I think he says, I don't want to sound queer or nothing, but I'd really love to make love to you tonight.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And I think in the end, let's drop the fig leaf on this and just spoil this for everybody. I think he kind of is intended to wind up with Sancho.
Is that what that is?
Well, because remember, in the very end, Sancho is watching the aftermath of what's happened. Mm-hmm. He says, I don't want to sound queer or nothing, but I think fire is very romantic. And then Dave looks at him like, oh, hey there, fella.
I guess I didn't catch that. I don't know why.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression like, oh, this is us closing the storyline for Dave. Dave finds love with Sancho. Okay. That's awesome. Good for them. Like yeah, strangely progressive for a film where the guy keeps saying, I don't want to sound queer or nothing, But that's the Dave storyline. We're going to leave Dave alone from this point forward. After a long day of filming, Joe and Chota Boy head to a local sushi spot where they find out the proprietor, G-Fresh, is refusing to sell his business to the criminals next door looking to expand their nightclub, which results in the restaurant being smashed up as a message of what happens when you refuse.
My guy in the corner that was singing karaoke, they just interrupt his karaoke session, but then he picks it back up and just goes right back to it. King.
And I don't know what he was singing, but I know Patrick Duffy was involved, and I don't know why. That's the other thing. These Matt and Trey, they find the people they want to pick on, and they just go nuts with it. Because I know there was an episode where Patrick Duffy plays the leg of a monster, like a kind of a Bigfoot-esque character in one of the episodes. Do you remember this?
No.
Yeah, it's like a Bigfoot-esque character, but he has his leg is literally Patrick Duffy.
That's hilarious.
I don't know why they do this. They just they find somebody and they frickin' pick on that person until the day they die.
Well, Winona Ryder, I think there was a lot of funny things about Winona Ryder in South Park. And,
oh yeah.
The girl that does what's her name? The one we talked about earlier, Toddy Stevens, I think her name is.
Yeah.
She actually did Winona Ryder's voice in South Park.
Oh, in the bigger, longer uncut. Yeah. Nice. A second day of shooting ends with Chota Boy taking Joe to his home for dinner, where he makes 3 important revelations.
Mm-hmm.
He's independently wealthy due to patents from his inventions.
Yeah.
He quit hamster-style martial arts after a quote-unquote traumatic experience, which was basically just him telling his dad he didn't want to do it anymore. And he's actually been able to invent the Orgazmorator, which Joe finds he can carry with ease despite its large size.
I love the scene where he's telling his dad that he's not going to do it because he's so emotional about it. He's like, Dad, I don't think I'm going to do hamster style anymore.
That's nice.
That's nice.
That's it. That's the traumatic experience. So realizing that Joe can carry the Orgazmorator, Joe and Chota Boy hit the town for a montage because we're in the 90s, and it's the South Park guys, wwho are literally the guys who invented the song that we constantly harken back to. Montage! That's literally them from Team America. So they hit the town for a montage full of orgasming cops, rabbis, and elderly and walkers.
The elderly one was a little disturbing. It's okay.
The whole thing was just terrifying. With a wrap on the filmmaking, Orgazmo hits the box office. With another montage, of course. The film reaches number 3 on the list of highest grossing films of all time behind Star Wars and Jurassic Park. Remember, this is 1997, so Titanic had just come out, so they probably wouldn't have known that it was going to be one of the top grossing. While Orgazmo climbs the charts, Joe finds himself being dodged by Max Orbison while trying to retrieve his pay. Joe is finally able to confront Max for his pay at an Orgazmo celebration party, to which Max simply hands over the money, but with the announcement of an Orgazmo sequel, offering Joe $40,000, which in today's money would be about $75,000 or $76,000.
Which, I mean, the total that he gets is what, $60,000 total?
So if he got paid that $40,000, that would have been 75 on top of the original 36. So we'd be looking at well over 100,000.
Yeah.
So just about $100,000 for, very few days of work. Simultaneously, G-Fresh is forced to sign over his business to the nightclub thugs. So Joe tells Lisa of the $40K. She's ecstatic, exclaiming they almost have enough to buy a house, which, because $60,000 could actually have done that in 1997.
Yeah,
the 20 plus 40. Yeah.
We were talking about that whenever we were watching the movie, and it was one of those things where I was like, even if they didn't, like, they couldn't outright buy the house, that down payment on that house with that amount of money would have been insane in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, that would have been like half the house. Yeah. Because, especially since they were both from Utah, yeah, they would have been fine. That, the real estate would have been fairly reasonable in Utah. Even in Utah these days, try finding a house where you can put down, where $60,000 is actually going to buy the damn house.
Well, I mean, also, too, they were part of the Mormon Church, and the Mormon Church owns a lot of land in Utah. They could have got a really nice house.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. On the set of the sequel, Joe meets A-Cup, who will be playing Neutered Man in the movie.
Yeah.
Orgazmo's arch enemy with the power to resist the Orgazmo Raider, because obviously he has no testicles, so the Orgazmo Raider is ineffective on him. A-Cup is a complete and utter dick that likes to fart in his hand and make people smell it. We thought this was funny in the 90s, and I simply can beg your forgiveness. That's all I can do.
I still think it's funny.
You're a bad person. So here's another fun fact, and I tried to find out the why behind this, and I couldn't really find anything. Most of the bad guys are named after people with the first name Roy. Have you noticed that?
I didn't notice that at all.
Max Orbison, Roy Orbison.
Yeah.
And they're all singers, by the way. Roy Orbison. Rogers is named after Roy Rogers. Ron Jeremy's character Clark, Roy Clark. And this one is a bit of a stretch, but they said A-Cup is named after, like, Roy A. Cuff.
Uh-huh.
But they're all singers. And I was like, okay, but why? There's no mention of this.
Maybe it's just that they liked him?
Honestly, it could just be coincidence, too. I don't know. I don't know why this was a thing. Like, there's no explanation to this. After filming, Joe and Chota Boy return to the sushi restaurant to hear G-Fresh has been forced to close. Chota Boy convinces Joe that they have to fight back using the Orgazmo Raider and clever disguises.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh.
So clever.
Our origin stories coming together. Dressed in their regalia, they infiltrate the club, take down the bad guys, and retrieve the forced contract for G-Fresh by beating the location out of a thug with a dildo.
The thing that gets me about this entire scene is that right before they get into the club, Chota Boy's talking to him, and he's like, this is what people inside the club wear nowadays.
And nobody's dressed like that.
No, nobody's dressed like that at all.
And also, Chota Boy has like an entire belt full of sex toys, and the guy is patting him down and is just like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's cool.
like really?
I guess if you remember the club kids, I guess.
Right.
Maybe that's what they were kind of talking about.
Joe returns home to find that Lisa has arrived. This will complicate things later. Tensions on the set begin to escalate as A-Cup becomes more and more aggressive towards the entire cast, and Max Orbison begins to let his mask of pleasantry drop to reveal his true maniacal and vindictive self. Chota Boy discovers the thugs from the club have actually been working for Orbison all along. While Joe is filming, Lisa heads to what's known as a video store. Ooh, yes, this is a thing we had in the 90s. To find a nice, wholesome Jesus flick, only to discover Joe's secret playing on screens inside the video store. An uncomfortable conversation ensues in which Joe tries to put Lisa at ease.
It was a stunt cock.
A stunt cock?
But all for naught. Lisa leaves Joe, unhappy with the choices he's made. And this is actually one of several Dickens references that are throughout this film, which I thought was weird.
Yeah, because he was like, don't you quote Dickens in this house.
Yeah, no, don't be quoting Dickens in my house. And then later at the end, Chota Boy says, God bless us, everyone. Like, I don't understand why they decided to do so much Dickens. It was weird.
Maybe because it's a movie about porno and it's
Dickens really
is in the name.
You know, ordinarily I would be ashamed at that attempt, but based off the fact this is Matt Stone and Trey Parker and their love of butts, I think you're onto something.
Yeah. Oh God, I hope not with this movie. I don't want to be on anything.
Joe realizes he must leave to save his relationship. Confronting Orbison to exercise the exit clause in his contract, Joe finds out the true depths of Orbison's evil. As Orbison assures Joe he will keep him through Orgazmo 37 if he so chooses. Joe stands up to Orbison and insists on leaving. Joe tells Chota Boy that he's decided to leave. Chota Boy insists Joe stay to help him fight Orbison after revealing Orbison is behind the intimidation of G-Fresh. Joe reaches his boiling point.
Doggone it, Ben! I'm not a superhero! I'm a Latter-day Saint!
Joe arrives home to find Lisa's bags, but no Lisa. He receives a phone call from Orbison, who's kidnapped Lisa to force Joe into finishing the film. Chota Boy opens his door to find Joe is in the Orgazmo suit from earlier. Joe is ready to fight.
Yeah, he is.
He took her, Ben. Orbison took my cupcake.
Joe and Chota Boy storm the mansion, fighting guards, dogs, and their fellow porn stars to make their way to where Orbison is keeping Lisa captive. While facing off with A-Cup, Joe is overpowered, forcing Chota Boy to face his quote-unquote traumatic past and unleash his hamster-style martial arts, which we learn is apparently just biting and scratching. With no more henchmen left to save him, Joe faces off with Orbison only to find out his Orgasmerator has run out of power. Orbison holds a knife to Lisa and begins monologuing, not realizing Chota Boy is secretly using the wires from a nearby lamp to create a power source for the Orgasmerator. In this climax of a moment, Joe becomes the hero he was all along.
I own this town! I'm the mayor, I'm the governor, I'm the police, and the crime! And who the hell are you to change that?
I'm Orgazmo.
Orgazmo shoots Orbison 5 times with the Orgasmerator, sending him flying into the pool and saving the day. As Joe and Lisa are packing up to head back to Utah, a tearful goodbye with Ben leads them to realize that LA needs Orgazmo and Chota Boy.
It is so hard to know what Heavenly Father wants from us or what he has in mind, but this whole thing is just too gosh darn wacky to be coinky-dink.
The film ends with Jesus showing up in ethereal form to show his approval with a heavenly thumbs up. And all is well. Except, meanwhile, in the hospital, doctors deliver the news to Max Orbison that the consecutive orgasms have caused permanent damage, requiring them to remove his testicles.
I thought it was to remove his pee-pee.
Well, they're removing the whole thing.
Oh, they're removing all of it.
Yeah, because the testicles have, what they say, were the size of oranges or grapefruits or something.
Oh, God, they're removing the vegetables.
They're removing the meat and the veg.
The meat and the vegetables.
Without realizing the damage he would do, Orgazmo has given birth to Neutered Man.
And he laughs like a crazy maniacal villain, too, which is ridiculous.
So, did you happen to catch the continuity issue with the Orgasmerator?
I was actually thinking about that the entire time. I was like, he said it runs on, what was it?
Fission.
Fission power.
Fission.
So it should have been like perpetual. But
then it runs out of battery? Like, what? That's not how that works. It's either, is it electric powered or is it fission powered? Which one is it?
It's like, what's going on here? All in all, this movie is just fucking ridiculous. But I wouldn't even go so far as to say it's a good movie, but it is a really fun movie.
It is a fun movie. It is a fun, easy humor, easy jokes. It doesn't take a lot of thought process, and it has a decent storyline. Like, that's the one thing I'll always give to Matt and Trey, is they know. It's funny, too, because I think they said it in Imagination Land.
Yeah.
One of their South Park like mini series things that they did. There's a thing where they're trying to talk to famous Hollywood types to give them ideas on what to do next. The government is, and they talk to Mel Gibson, and they have him do this. This is even after Mel went on his crazy, anti-Semitic tirade. And he's sitting there like rubbing his nipples, and he's like, "Oh, my nipples! It feels so good when I twist them." But he's then also giving them like a good idea. And one of the government guys is like, "Say what you will about Mel Gibson, but the son of a bitch knows storyline." And I think that kind of speaks to Matt and Trey's overall philosophy is that they're trolls. They are. They love to troll people.
Yeah,
they love to insult. They love to. They call it pushing limits, but sometimes it's just flat out mockery and degradation. But they always want to make sure they're following a reasonable storyline. They want the storyline to have, the rising action, the climax, the falling conclusion. They want to make sure it has all the correct parts. And I think that's pretty obvious in Orgazmo as well. It has all the necessary parts. Yeah, there's a lot of silly jokes thrown in here and there that don't really push the plot one way or the other, but they're not tangents. They're just jokes. And sometimes they're good, sometimes they're miss, but they keep the storyline moving necessarily. And it's not even that long of a movie. I think it was like, hour and a half?
Something like that. It was very, not short movie, but it's pretty short.
But, and interestingly enough, because they're talking about porno shoots, which are only 3 days long, it seems to work out. Yeah. They're able to kind of move it along very, efficiently.
I mean, think about how they even film their episodes of South Park and how they do like their time schedule. I mean, it's a very fast-paced schedule, but they've been doing this for how many years now? 25? So the first episode was August 13th, 1997.
That's been going for, so in 4 years, they'll be at the 30-year mark. So yeah, you're right. They just had the 25th anniversary. That's insane.
Yeah.
25 fucking years. That's nuts.
And it's still, I think because they captured the idea of like, okay, well, we just need to make a show about today's topics. We need to make it relevant. And that's how they're able to keep it fresh. It's like every single day there's something happening. They just capitalize on it.
Orgazmo can be seen on Prime Video, Vudu, Redbox, or Apple TV. However, that will incur a rental fee for all of them. None of them are free to watch.
I think it's $2.99 is what I paid. $3.99 or $2.99?
$3.99 on all of them, except you can get a 20-cent discount on Prime for $3.79. So, yeah.
Save your money.
Well, in 1990s money, that would buy a house, but... Our music is created by Augusto Denise, logo by Arpon Design, mixing and editing by IPTT Studios.
And we want to hear from you in your own slice of toast. Tell us about the films that you think we and others should see, actors to showcase, or topics to discuss. You can reach us on Instagram at IPTT_podcast, email us directly at IPTTpodcast@gmail.com, or interact with us directly on the Spotify app.
And if you find yourself on a religious mission strapped for cash with only one way to make ends meet, just remember,
you can always get more Studcock!
Thanks for listening.
But I'm really going to miss you guys when the show's over.